Hello there.
Well, let's see here. We went through 3 years between episodes 2 and 3. We had a show talking about saboteurs that was actually just a cover for explaining where Dave Filoni's favorite character was during the original trilogy. Then we had that cute little baby Yoda show where they had girls cooing and cawing whenever baby Yoda, I mean Grogu, did pretty much anything at all, featuring a Mandalorian foundling. Then we had the Boba Fett show. And now there's this.
General Kenobi!
It should be just about the easiest story to tell in the Imperial era, really. Obi just chilled in Tatooine and dealt with local problems that would endanger young Luke. That doesn't seem so hard to do, does it? But apparently it was so easy and simple that they decided not to do that. So, let's have a look-see at what they did end up doing, shall we? Hello, I am Gibson Shamar from Hikati Media, and this is the Obi-Wan Kenobi Talk. You already know how this goes. I'll talk about the characters, then the show itself, giving my thoughts on both and providing some insight into the creative choices that were made. First character is obviously Obi-Wan Kenobi himself. The show does exactly what should be done with him, show him broken down and suffering from PTSD and quite possibly depression over his failings. He played that part really well too. You see his anguish and sadness every time he comes across something that reminds him of the past, like that Jedi dude that got killed in the first episode that he refused to help. Man, the show really got the mature side of Star Wars right. I was so drawn in, and I watched this recently, after all the backlash towards it, by the way. It's been like a year since it premiered. I don't know. They got Obi-Wan right, at least. He's just chilling on Tatooine, watching Luke from afar, and working at some butchery, some sort of butchery where he steals meat on a daily basis. But it's okay because the boss is an anus. He gets a call from Bail Organa, who tells him that Leia has been kidnapped and refuses at first because he's guarding Luke, obviously. He gives all the excuses people on the internet would have called out, but Bail insists that it be Obi-Wan. So, he accepts and goes to rescue Leia and has repeated run-ins with Reva, an Inquisitor who holds a grudge against Obi-Wan because he didn't kill Anakin or show up to save the younglings at the temple from Anakin. Yep, really. Because she had no idea what was happening to all the Jedi across the galaxy, even after joining the Inquisitors. Go figure.
Well. What do we have here?
During one of these encounters, she tells him that Anakin is alive and is Darth Vader, and he decides to confront him. Okay, pause. How in the netherworld of the Force did he not know that? Isn't he supposed to be keeping track of what's happening in the galaxy? What are you protecting Luke from if you don't even know what's going on?
Well. What do we have here?
He goes on his quest across the galaxy, makes some friends, including one that a few people on Twitter started to ship him with. Seriously, shippers are the worst part of every fandom. Anyway, she died, and that was after Obi-Wan finds out from her that there are other Jedi who survived, including Quinlan Vos. You know Quinlan, the surfer bro, who could totally be played by this guy in live action. You hear me? Yeah, after ensuring Leia's safety, Obi-Wan goes to confront Vader and defeats him, then just walks away. My brother in the Force, did you just defeat Vader and then just walk away from him? Oh, jeez, man. Then, of course, he gets back to Tatooine to find that Luke, who he completely abandoned, was brought back to the Larses by the most dangerous Inquisitor who had a change of heart. Oh, Sidious, kill me now. I'm gonna get that to that point. You just wait. Obi-Wan as a character was very on point, both in terms of performance and interpretation. He's beaten up, he's depressed, sad, wasting away in life, just growing old, waiting for his best friend's son to grow up, a boy he can't even send anonymous gifts to. It's a sad life, and you can't help but feel for him. It's a no-brainer that such a character would end up being the fan favorite in the prequels. He went through so much. His arc is about finding himself and reconnecting with the Force, remembering why he's doing what he's doing, and regaining the power he will need in order to train Luke. And it was actually very well done. Let's move on to the secondary character of the show, Reva, played by Moses Ingram. This one's a bit of a complex story, not just because she's a well-developed character and whose acting performance was excellent, but because her story was clearly influenced by real-life events. See, the actress suffered a lot of backlash online because her character was super intense, and because she has a different hair color. Her character is marked by rage and resent. She's blinded by her quest for revenge against Obi-Wan for her near-death experience with Anakin. As time goes, we learn more about her and see just why she's so dedicated. I mean, any of the Inquisitors would be, considering they're fallen Jedi who were convinced or just tortured into joining the dark side. She was the most efficient, practical character in the show, and quite honestly, she had the most common sense out of everyone. Everything she did yielded results, but the problem was that she was insubordinate and impatient, which rubbed the fan base the wrong way, I guess. Because, Darksiders aren't supposed to be consumed by emotions like rage and impatience, the anti-Jedi philosophy. Anyway, after finding Obi-Wan and haunting him, Obi-Wan convinces her to take a swing at Vader. That sly dog. He knew she'd fail. I just know it. You sneaky guy, you. She tried, and man, was it entertaining to see her try her best against Vader and fail miserably. My guy toyed with her so much that he even started playing with her lightsabers right in front of her. Like, yo, I know you hate the Inquisitors and all, but take it easy, man. Jeez. Anyway, he stabs her after telling her that he knew who she was all along and leaves her to die the same way he did when she was a kid. And that was the end of her character. Or what it should have been. She finds out who Luke and Leia are off screen, goes after Luke, and defeats the Lars family, and almost kills Luke before having a change of heart at the last moment and taking him back to the Larses. I have a lot to say about this moment. You just sit there and relax. Anyway, Moses' performance was probably the best one in the show, and the character really stood out. I liked her. She was the perfect plot device to keep the heroes on their toes because everyone was laid back and calculating. She'd just jump in on the action and get results. Seriously, she's good, and she's willing to go to any lengths to get results. Cut innocent civilians' limbs off to get information? You got it. Burn people's limbs off with her lightsaber to get information? You got it. You bet your ninny. Torture children? For information? That's child's play. There's no limit she won't cross to get the job done. This made me respect her character a lot, and I don't understand those who didn't. Next up, we have Leia Organa, famed daughter of Anakin Skywalker, adopted by the famed Bail Organa, senator or king of Alderaan. They're not really clear on why she's called princess by 3PO in the original trilogy, if you think about it. Well, whatever. She starts off the show in a scene that's supposed to be about how she's looked down upon and could have self-esteem issues due to being adopted, but she pretty much owns her beliefs. Well, Okay. She's as stern as when she's an adult, so this won't be a show showcasing a bit of growth for her. She gets kidnapped, and Bale insists for Obi-Wan to go find and rescue her. She's always trying to take the lead and tell Obi-Wan how things work, but at least they keep it realistic, because everything she ever takes the lead in fails, and or she gets in trouble. Then Obi-Wan has to rescue her. He must have at some point been like, man, what is with these Skywalkers and attracting trouble? He never once lectured her or told her how to behave or do any correcting at all. That doesn't really sit well since she clearly does need some form of taming, but hey, I'm not a professional screenwriter or anything yet, so what do I know? She's also an innocent kid who has stern, unshakable beliefs that make it difficult for people to deal with her. Heck, Reva got to a point where she wanted to resort to torturing her, where she usually tortures Jedi to death. Yeah, Leia's a tough one. She was the anchor of the show, so a lot was put on that child actor's shoulders, but she managed to pull it off. She performed very well and actually looked like a real 10-year-old girl. Well, okay, she looked 9 years old. 10 is a bit bigger than what she is. Yes, I know people age differently. Let's get off that subject. Her arc, or lack thereof, was explored well enough to justify her existence in the show, but there was really no point in using her. We'll expand on that point later on. Then we have Darth freaking Vader, who has the most bone chilling entrance in the show. Dude, this show showed us why he's feared so much by the general public. Guy shows up at a small village and just starts killing people for no reason at all. That man had a commanding presence and was out for blood. Dude didn't let up not even once, and gosh darn, he really, really, really had it for Obi-Wan. He met him, started a fire, and dragged Obi-Wan along it so that he could feel the same pain he did. Like, seriously, bro, you need to chill, man. But yeah, the two Disney live action projects that had him did Vader perfectly. He was relentless in his hunt for Obi-Wan, but my favorite part was when he showed up and ripped apart a ship like it's nothing after stopping it from taking off, even at full power. Like, man, I was so impressed. This was the best Vader I'd ever seen. Oh, man, he was just intense. And when he played with Reva, gosh, I love that scene. The way he was like, I always knew who you were and what you wanted. Then he just stabbed her, the same way he stabbed her when she was a kid. Genius! Man, I loved that. Then, of course, we had the part where he fought Obi-Wan and lost because Obi-Wan believed in himself again. Or something. Okay, pause. What? So, what exactly was the point of this rematch of the century if Obi-Wan was just going to defeat Vader straight up all over again and this time allow him to live simply because? We'll get to that later. You just wait. So, on to the show itself. The show was very well done. The cinematography, the acting, the atmosphere, all very good. The characters were solid and well presented. Owen Lars was the jerk that we read about, and we saw it. It was nice to see him be something more than just the guy who raised Luke and died, along with Beru. That's how it should have been. Honestly, this show should have been about Obi-Wan protecting Luke. But somebody in the production team must have been like, we've seen a lot of Luke. We need Leia. She's a Skywalker too. And then they made it about Obi-Wan protecting her instead. I'll have you know that if you wanted a Leia show, you could have made it a spy thriller about how she's doubling in the failing Galactic Senate as a representative of Alderaan's leadership while she's gathering Imperial information and supplying it to the rebel cells around the galaxy. There's a lot of stuff you could do with her alternatively. You could even make a show about how she joined a military coup against an Empire-controlled planet and took command. Like, man, they really just... Seriously. The show ended up forcing itself to keep going despite a lot of ways that it could have just ended simply. Like 3 episodes in, when Obi-Wan could have just escaped and never faced Vader and gotten burned. leading to Leia being kidnapped again and him needing rescuing by this lady who Twitter people wanted to start shipping him with. Gosh, I hate shippers. She died, so it's okay. For all the talk the producers had about making sure they didn't break canon, they sure took liberties with what happens to Obi-Wan in his time on Tatooine. Firstly, let me say that the expanded universe took a poop ton of liberties with the Star Wars universe and the lore. And heck, they even created numerous plot holes within themselves, each other, and the movies. They even had Owen be the one to kill Maul on Tatooine when he went after Luke. Obi-Wan didn't just have Satine either. He just had another love interest called Siritachi, whom he actually started a relationship with. But in the movies, he acts like having romantic feelings for others is completely alien to him. Like it's something he knows exists, but he doesn't really relate to it. The one thing they never did was make Vader and Obi-Wan face each other before episode 4. Why? Because it was better that way. Oh, but they never explicitly said that they never faced each other again after Mustafar, so it's not a plot hole. Yeah, it may not be a plot hole per se, but it dilutes the impact of them fighting in the Death Star if you watch it in chronological order. Plus, the rematch of the century added absolutely nothing to their history, aside from having Obi-Wan call Vader Darth to justify why he did that on the Death Star when it was just the two of them. Like, dudes, he had 18 years to process Anakin's fall from the grace. I'm pretty sure he'd just get to calling him Darth Vader after 18 years of hearing about Darth Vader. The show was perfection up until the end of their showdown, where Obi-Wan walks away from Vader after crippling him. My brother in the Force. Him surviving Mustafar was not on you. You thought he'd die from those flames, but he didn't. Why didn't you kill him this time? Because it's not for you to do? Yeah, dude, you were protecting Luke so he could grow up to kill Palpatine, not Vader. First, you don't even know he's alive because you don't follow galactic affairs for some reason. Now you're all like, nah, Luke will take care of it when he's old enough. Bro, which writer made you think like this? That is so selfish. So now it's like you were just manipulating Luke into killing his own father because you didn't have the guts to do it yourself. Like I said, it's fine if you leave it once because you didn't know he'd survive. But then the second time? Come on, dude. And let's get to the elephant in the room, shall we? Let's talk about Reva. Moses Ingram received a lot of hate from fans because of her role as Reva. Guys, you know it's a show, right? Anyway, her story is basically she survived Anakin in the temple, wants revenge, joins him, then fails to kill him and tries to kill his son as recompense, then chooses not to. Let's see here. Why do I feel like she was meant to die against Vader, but then didn't because they didn't want to give mean people on the internet something to celebrate? Why couldn't she die after returning Luke? Same thing. You see, Star Wars has life lessons, and Reva's life could have served as a powerful life lesson. She survived because of rage. Okay. She tried to take revenge on Vader and failed, and he killed her the same way he tried to when she was a kid. A nice bookend because Vader finished what he started. It cements Vader as a cool bad guy. It also teaches us that revenge gets us killed. Okay, they botched that. She gets to Tatooine, barely able to stand, beats up the Larses, knocks Luke out, then forgets about revenge and takes him back to the Lars family. Okay, she turned over a new leaf. That right there should have been it for her. She should have died because her rage is what had made her survive 2 lightsaber stabbings in the same place. Once she let go of that rage, she should have died. But no. People on the internet were mean to her, so we can't give them something to be happy about. Here's a little advice. Don't base your creative decisions on online discourse. Write the story the way you want it to be. And if it's a prequel, stick to what's established. If it's too much, Leave the show and leave open a vacancy for someone who can do just that. Where was Riva during the original trilogy? She wouldn't just disappear. It's against her character to just disappear. We've seen how driven she is. What? She can show up in another show? That won't answer anything, I'm sure, because those mean people on the internet still exist. And you're not going to kill her because those mean people are going to have something to celebrate. She's going to be another Ahsoka, basically. Conveniently absent from all the movies due to a weak excuse, but she'll survive past everything. The galaxy is a big place, you know. Moving on, I have to say that this show absolutely sabotaged Bail Organa's character. I've never seen a more selfish character than him because of this show in particular. You mean to tell me that Leia got kidnapped? You, the ruler of Alderaan, with your vast wealth and resources, and even Ahsoka, in contact with you, went and took Obi-Wan out of Tatooine to save her. My brother in the Force, Leia is just as important as Luke and has a guardian. You volunteered to take her. No one forced you. No one even suggested that you take her. You just up and volunteered. Obi-Wan took Luke and stuck with him and was doing his job. You know what the worst thing about you is? You didn't even leave anyone from your royal guard or something to protect Luke, and he ended up being a target too because of your stupid self-important selfishness. Like, bro, if Owen didn't want them around, you send them to nearby farms or something. Don't just abandon the family to their fate. And no one called this out. Bro, Luke was a goner, and your Leia was safe and sound. This is what constitutes as a good ending for you? You sacrificed one kid for the other when you had other options with you that you were in contact with to avoid coming to that kind of situation. Man, I could go for hours about this, but it's meant to be a 20-minute video, so yeah. Anyway, the worst actor was Sung Kang. He was out of place, didn't fit in his costume, and was trying too hard to be menacing. It didn't work. And, by the way, the Grand Inquisitor should have been played by the voice actor. I read why they didn't cast him, but I still don't understand why. And of course, what's a Star Wars show without a nice cameo? Yeah, we got Qui-Gon in the thing. Because, Qui-Gon didn't learn how to manifest himself physically through the Force. Because it seemed that he didn't finish his training, or maybe he did, but he just didn't manifest himself as a spirit. But, this show showed us that he did. For some reason, he never showed up to Anakin to guide him throughout the prequel trilogy or anything. He just showed up to talk to Obi-Wan. Okay, but why? Why then? Why not before? Why didn't you show up for Anakin? Why did you keep teasing Yoda throughout the Clone Wars? Or, well, for that brief time when everyone thought that Yoda was going insane. Why didn't you just manifest yourself physically? Yeah, are you capable of learning more things about the Force when you're already dead? Then what exactly are the rules for this Force ghost thing? Are you just going to keep making these things up as long as the plot demands it? Or is it just going to be a common Star Wars trend to have a cameo for someone who appeared either in the Clone Wars or the prequel trilogy that we thought was dead or did die or just disappeared because, they don't appear in the movies, but they appear in the show? That's coming to be a very annoying trend with Star Wars shows. It's not really about the story anymore. It's about who the guest appearance will be. Anyway, thanks for watching. Next up, we'll talk about Moon Knight. Stay tuned. So, let me get this straight. Obi-Wan and Leia agree to pretend that they've never met each other so that they can explain why Leia sent a message to Obi-Wan in episode 4, acting as if she's never actually met the guy. Okay, fine. You want to go like, oh no, we just agreed to pretend that it never happened? Fine. So this was explained by a few fans that I've debated with online, saying that it was to maintain secrecy. But okay, this was a top secret message that was meant to be seen by only him anyway. So why was she pretending that she had never met him before? Because somebody else might get to see the message? Okay, fine. But did you know that she also mentioned that she has the Death Star plans in the droid in that same message? Wouldn't that information be more dangerous than showing that she knows who Obi-Wan is?